Let's talk about how these creepy jerks are making it difficult for us to have real conversations. PCMag.com says Facebook prods users who've been exposed to extremist content to get help. This is where it's getting weird. It's getting real. It's getting weird. Look at this. Are you concerned that someone you know is becoming an extremist? We care about preventing extremism on Facebook. Others in your situation have received confidential support. The other one says, Kevin, you may have been exposed to harmful extremist content recently. Violent groups try to manipulate your anger and disappointment. You can take action now to protect yourself and others. All right, you can take action. Everybody listening, you can take action right now. You can smash the like button, subscribe, and share this video.
Oh.
That way, people can get a non-corporate opinion on why this is creepy and freaky. Just think about
that would be a peaceful action, though, of course, right?
Yeah.
very, very peaceful.
Yeah,
pressing
very
that like
peaceful.
button.
Peaceful smashing.
Yeah, that's the big conundrum about these networks. Everyone's like, why don't you get off YouTube? And it's like, bro, we upload to Rumble now. We're uploading to Rumble. Not that it's perfect. We've always uploaded. Have we? I don't think IRL's on Minds, but my personal content has always been on Minds. IRL is on Minds. Yeah, we want to, and we want to make sure we're leveraging the networks as they exist to the best of our abilities, so we can keep the network alive. Think of it this way. The way I said it before is like, do you retreat from a battlefield where you're still holding some ground just because you're like, that battlefield is completely open? It's like, not necessarily. Hold the ground you can. And so if there's a lot of things we can't talk about and it's getting worse, I'm texting some of these other big podcast people right now and I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like, there's breaking news. We can't talk about it. Like, I email Google and I'm like, hey, look at this story. And they're like, well, and I'm, all right, can't say these things. That's insane. That's how bad and broken this is.
I've noticed, I think our presence here is helping guide the YouTube behavior and like terms a little bit, because I noticed they relaxed their swearing measurements and they're like, you know what? Go for it. If you want to cuss, feel free. Because it's like, it's just so entertaining. And if we start cussing, it's hilarious, and they know that, and they want it to be hilarious.
I don't think that's us.
Well,
Sure it is.
I think so.
But let's
crazy.
talk about this Facebook thing, because I just want to look at this. They say confidential support. Who do you think at Facebook is going to be the person that will reach out to you when you're like, help, I've seen a post from Ben Shapiro?
Oh, no.
Like a psychiatrist that they hired.
It's going to
or
be
a
some woke
psychologist?
20-year-old.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, to be completely honest, it's going to be like some 20-year-old college student from India.
Yeah.
No joke. I mean, outsourcing call center stuff. You're going to get someone who's, probably got a checklist of like, do you feel like you are sad and depressed? No. Okay.
Right.
Did Ben Shapiro touch you in any way? No. Okay.
Emotionally.
Well, when you said exposed, I was thinking, I don't know, is this about my uncle or what is this about? What's going on here?
These social networks have like huge psychology departments to take care of their admins, because the admins see such vile and vicious things as they're going through, like making sure like blown off arms or like horrific stuff. So I wonder if they're using those same therapists to help now, but I don't know.
It's
kind of vague.
I mean, I don't know what they expect to get out of this other than creeping people out. But I want to show you this meme from Carrie Wedler. It says, are you concerned that someone you know is becoming an extremist? We care about preventing extremism on Facebook. Others in your situation have received confidential support. And then, of course, there's Obi-Wan Kenobi says, well, of course I know him. He's me. Yes, we've all been exposed to this content, but define extremist.
Sure. Well, about
Political
what?
dissident.
Yeah, when I first saw this, I thought for sure that it was about Black Lives Matter and Antifa, but of course I was not correct. Of course, they're only talking about the right-wing extremism that they say is the biggest threat. Obviously, it should be BLM and Antifa, but it's not. And I feel like this is a flex from Facebook. They're just like, oh, we're just going to show them what we can do. We're watching you. We can see what you're looking at. We can see what you're liking.
It's creepy. It's absolutely creepy, of course. And it's kind of like that old definition of, what's porn, and the Supreme Court justice said, well, I know it when I see it, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of these things, right?
We can't operate that way.
No, we can't.
Like, you need to be able to define what you're talking about.
Right. So I've been searching my brain. I'm like thinking, when was the last time in history it was awesome when censorship showed up? Like when did that work out real well? Was that the Nazi book burnings? So the
U.S. Office of Censorship.
When did
World War II. Loose lips sink ships.
Yeah, but if you're talking about OPSEC, that might be just a little bit different from saying I'm going to talk about a scientific paper which somebody disapproves of, right? It's a very different beast. So what I find interesting in this is that remember, I'm cursed with this memory. I can remember all the way back to the last election, right? Remember there was all this concern like Nazis. They were everywhere, right? So what are Nazis famous for? Well, I think they're really famous for marginalizing and, shutting things down. Well, that's exactly the environment I feel like I'm living in right now. So
of course.
I've had people call me up and say, Chris, you don't understand. This is exactly like what it was like when I was in Cuba, right when the whole revolution was going down. This is what it was like, this older guy, during the Soviet times, right?
Have you heard about the parents
Same
in
thing.
Loudoun County?
No.
Was it Loudoun County where that woman said
Yeah.
it's just like the Cultural Revolution or whatever?
Chinese mother.
The struggle sessions? Yeah? Is that where we are?
Yeah. I mean, it's shocking that there was something I wanted to ask you about. You were talking about vaccines. You were talking about efficacy. You were talking about medical treatments. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. Excellent. Wow. Ian.
Green.
Okay. Thanks, YouTube. It's been a blast. This is the kind of content you want on your platform.
Ha ha ha. Swear word.
I just learned that. I learned
Troublemaker.
that green is in the middle of the human vision spectrum. So it made me think that maybe we developed the ability to see green first. And maybe that's because trees and grass are green. Magnesium and chlorophyll is green. So we just evolved to see that was the first color we started to notice.
Dude, I am fairly optimistic. I have to be honest. I was getting pretty pessimistic for a while. And then, Michael Malice, who's a constant influence on this show,
good.
is very optimistic because he's always mocking and laughing at these people. Now, I do get some concern when he says things like, look how dumb these people are. How could you possibly be worried about losing the culture war or something to that
say
effect?
that, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, zombies are dumb too, but sometimes the zombies take over.
They never stop.
Yeah, and they
Diligence.
turn other people into zombies.
A lot of them.
That's
So
also true.
when you see the zombie like headbutting into a door and like just bouncing, and they're like, look how dumb it is, and then 10,000 of them start marching towards you, you do get scared. But I am optimistic for a lot of reasons. As I've been saying recently, the night is always darkest before the dawn. Maybe it's bad right now, but look at the stuff we've been able to do over at Timcast.com. We've hired a couple more writers. We've got a new editor coming on. We got new podcasts. I am confident that YouTube will be forced by the market to stop doing what they're doing. Or I'll say this: I really don't think it's going to be Republicans. They're gonna be like wagging their finger for the next 5 years. Nothing's gonna happen. But I should say I don't believe 100% that the market is gonna force YouTube to change. But look at Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Joe Rogan left YouTube for the most part. Took a deal with Spotify, and he was able to host Brett Weinstein and who's the other guy?
Pierre Corey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we can't repeat what they said on that show.
But it is a great show, and I highly recommend everyone watch that show.
And the New York Times wrote a pseudo hit piece on Joe recently, mentioning the conversations they're having. Now, I'm not entirely convinced Spotify is happy with the conversations they're having, but he's got a deal, and they can't just ban him. So it allows. It's like Joe got himself locked into place on a platform that probably would have banned him if he did it independently. If Joe being Joe, they probably would have loved it if he just went to Spotify. But if for a channel like this, if we did the same show as Joe off of YouTube, Spotify would probably ban it. They had all those employees at Spotify trying to get Joe banned, but he's got this deal where he's like locked into place.
And
He's got 11 million listeners. So,
Yeah.
What are they going to do? He's got more listeners than nearly all of mainstream media. So he's got power.
Is that the metric that's come out? 11 million listeners?
I think that's the last one I heard.
Because he has like 10 million subscribers on YouTube, or is it like 11 million subscribers? I'm wondering how many people still listen to him on Spotify, though.
I don't anymore.
Yeah, I haven't. No disrespect. Like, Joe's rad. Consider him a friend. I haven't checked out. I haven't been able to see one of his shows. There was one instance where a show came up, and I tried pulling up Spotify to figure it out, and I give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a little barrier of entry.
I used to just pull up the thing on YouTube with no problem, and I would have it like playing to my left while I'm like reading news and stuff, and I just listen for a couple hours.
It's
harder.
When I have so much respect for Brett Weinstein, so I will go the distance for him and Joe, of course. But it really, because I was like you, I didn't get Spotify, wouldn't get it. I was like, F this. But when you see these people, I mean, he's friends with some of the most influential and amazing humans on earth. So I'm going for that. And Spotify knows it. Their valuation after they paid Joe, whatever it was, 100 million or whatever, is up like billions of dollars.
I know, and I regretted not buying any of that stock because I'm pretty sure like a bunch of people knew that it was happening, and then like I didn't even think about it, and then instantly as soon as they announced it in the press, it like skyrocketed. I'm like, weren't people talking about that behind the scenes? Like, didn't someone tell me something about that? I gotta pay attention more to this stuff. I don't think that's insider trading though. I have nothing to do with the business. Someone just mentioned, hey, I think this thing's gonna happen. I'm like, I don't care.
All All right, darkest before the dawn, though. I got to tell you, I know a lot of people who've been canceled and censored just in the past 2 weeks.
It's getting worse.
Big stuff, right? So this woman who works for the FLCCC, Joyce, she writes this really big article called
the FLCCC.
Oh, sorry, that's the Frontline COVID Critical Care Doctor.
Okay.
So that's Dr. Pierre Corey. So my first YouTube strike happened when I was reviewing his testimony. So he was in front of the Senate, had like 8 million views. I thought this is safe, so I took his thing, I pulled 3 clips. Just reacted to the 3 clips saying, hey, you should listen to what he's saying here. It makes sense. That was my first strike.
They gave you a strike. That was recently. They took down this guy's Senate testimony.
They did that too, but they gave me the strike for reviewing the testimony, right?
I wonder if they're going to get mad at us for mentioning the testimony at all. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think so. They might get mad, but it doesn't violate any terms to talk about banned content, as far as I know, to reference it.
Crowder got a strike for mentioning CDC data. It's they don't care, man.
Exactly.
They're carpet bombing channels.
Yes.
And so people are like, Tim, why do you keep saying talk to your doctor so much? First and foremost, I genuinely believe a private doctor knows more than Rogan, Fauci, or anybody on TV. But also, it's like when we do segments for this show, we do a 2-hour podcast. Of course, in the context of the live show, I'll say something like, it is my genuine opinion that, your medical history to a private doctor, like your personal doctor, he's going to know what's better for you than anybody on TV or whatever. But then when we do another segment, because we break them up, that context has to be in it as well. Otherwise, we'll get banned. I'm not exaggerating. People so if we talk for 10 minutes and at the beginning of it, I say, make sure you go to your doctor. We make a clip where we're like, here's what Dr. Chris Martenson was saying, and it has to be included. YouTube specifically told me that. Mm-hmm. And then if we make another 10 to 15 minute segment, we're talking about something else. And as soon as it comes up, I have to say it. Otherwise, we get banned.
Okay. Well, it's good information too. It's not just hyperbole. It's not just a show of faith. I mean, you really do want to talk to your personal doctor about your personal medical business.
I know this is what Candace Owens was saying, was like, why are people so dumb that they're going to listen to a comedian and then take that as medical advice? People need to have some responsibility for their actions. And I'm like, that's a really good point. Like the media gets mad at Joe Rogan for having an opinion on vaccines. And it's like, yeah, we do. It says a lot about our society that maybe it's just more about YouTube and their faith in humanity versus humanity in general. Like, if someone did a podcast where they said, I'm not even gonna make a hypothetical because YouTube would get mad at me, but if someone said something like, ride your bicycle backwards, it's fun, and then a bunch of people just went and did it and got hurt, YouTube genuinely believes people will watch Beavis and they genuinely believe people will watch YouTube channels and then just instantly be like, I'm gonna do everything they just did, without thinking about it. They all jumped off a bridge.
Well,
I will too.
Isn't that kind of the divide? So I trust the people who follow me to be intelligent and take responsibility, and they do. I trust them. YouTube has this other sort of patrician attitude, which is, listen, we know we can handle this information, but we're worried about other people, right? So it's this very sort of looking down that they believe that all these other people are going to do really dumb stuff. So remember, way back when there was this whole thing, and don't even know if I can say the word, but this woman gave this guy died from this fish tank cleaner, and they used it and used it and used it and used it, and then his buddies wrote and said, by the way, Bruce was a really careful guy. He was an engineer. He never would have spooned stuff in. And by the way, his wife was new and she was a complete raging, bitch. And so they were a little worried that maybe something had happened because, guys tend to, if they're going to off their partners, they do it violently, and women choose poison. And so it's a very old story. And so there's a real story there that somebody could look at, and the media just ran with it over and over and over again, that's the danger. This one case that this happened, and it's much more complicated than it's been presented.
Yeah, if Trump says something, it's got to be wrong and bad. There was something funny happened recently. Trump goes to the border, right? And Kamala Harris won't go to the border. She won't deal with immigration. Trump announces he's going to go there, and he did. And he had a press conference with Greg Abbott. And of course, then Kamala immediately is like, "Okay, I'm going." Apparently, she went to the wrong place. Like she went to somewhere that wasn't relevant necessarily.
800 miles away, yeah.
But
close.
I noticed. Someone noticed this on Twitter. They said, I think it was Politico put out Trump's having a very, very bad day. And they mentioned, I think the CFO from Trump Organization was indicted on, not paying taxes on benefits, which is the weirdest thing.
Taxes, man.
Yeah, but, this is such a slap on the wrist level offense. Usually they're just like, hey, you owe us $1 million. And they go, okay, here's your $1 million. Have a nice day. They actually indicted the guy for not paying taxes on his benefits. And so anyway, you see this email come out saying Trump is having a really bad day. And it's like they're just lying in wait to say if Trump does anything, we need to shut down that conversation. before it can happen. So Trump supporters are watching, right?
We have this reoccurring conversation about leaders and followers and who's what and the danger of too many leaders, but what I'm interested to hear what you think about, like, just the nature of humanity that we sort of segment into this one leader and a bunch of followers. And society, it's almost now that society thinks that they've just like, this is how it's going to be. There's a bunch of people that are followers by nature. You can't change it. It's human nature. So we have to protect against that. We've got these people at the top or whatever that are supposedly like trying to build a world around that concept. And what do you think about that?
Well, I'd be I would love to be able to relax into the idea that you have a good, competent leader out there, right? But I don't. I really honestly think our leadership right now is taking us in a direction that's horrifying. Every dimension I look at this, right? So the Federal Reserve is now printed. It has a balance sheet that's $8 trillion. Look at the price for cold rolled steel. Look at the price. I mean, we just have inflation raging, and all they can think to do is their precious stock market, they're going to keep throwing money in. It's the dumbest thing ever, right? And that's the leadership we have on the economic side. But I got to tell you, again, still, I look at what's happening ecologically around here in terms of species loss, particularly at the bottom of the food chain. One does not willingly lose the bottom of the food chain. We're losing insects. Because we're losing insects, we're losing the birds. And, it's going to be one of those things where you can't quite predict what's going to happen. People are like, oh, you lose a few honeybees, we get some honeybees. But eventually you lose one too many species. And then the next thing you know, you have this mysterious brown mold going across your crops. And you don't know what's happening because there's something too complicated to understand. So our leadership is taking us down the wrong direction. But they have one unifying thing. If you can make money at it, it's an okay thing.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.